You guys will help me remember all the information shared out. Okay. I wanted to have everybody come together because I met with the letters on a webinar, kind of our representative and the coach, I guess for lack of a better term. Hold on. Miss Hood says she can't hear me. Can everybody else hear me? Oh, where's your volume out there, Miss Hood? Womp womp. I'll go super slow. Okay, well, Paris, I'm gonna go, but I will drop kind of the agreement that I've drafted out to lay out the logistics in the chat. So let me do that really quick so you can at least look at that. Anyone with the link, copy the link. Admit Billy Perrier. Okay, so here's the link that I kind of want to go over. Anyway, the reason I wanted to bring the group back together is because there's so much to this program if you're not super familiar, which I'm becoming more familiar every time. Essentially the breakdown is 8 units that you're doing. And within the units, there are sessions, right? So each unit is supposed to take 8 weeks. So I was just like, oh, great. We'll do our virtual sessions once a month, every 4th Thursday or whatever, or every whatever. And I get on there and they're like, that doesn't work with the pacing of when you finish units and when you're supposed to have a virtual in-person coaching and your work. So I kind of finagled with them a little bit on, okay, well, what is the best course? What is the way to go? And essentially what LETRS says is best practice, which that's what I want to do. I want to start there at least. Is that you have a total of 6 hours of virtual training per unit. So that means, in total, oh, sorry, it's 4 units and each unit has 8 sessions. Sorry, I have both of the
I was going to say
volumes.
that math doesn't work.
I know. Because it's so funny. It's like they use volumes, then they use units, and then they use sessions, and then they use trainings, and they use a lot of different numbers and language. So I'm mixing my words. There are 4 units overall in total. Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4. For each of those units, you have 6 hours of virtual time. Everything else you do independently. Within those units that are 8 sessions for each unit, you have 2 3-hour virtual sessions. So again, going back, I thought we would do something like once a month or whatever. And they're like, you don't want to spread out because like for unit 1, which is 8 sessions, we'll have 2 3-hour virtual sessions. And essentially you're supposed to do those like virtual sessions at the end of a unit or close to the end of a unit. So if I have one at the first Tuesday of January, and then we have one at the first Tuesday of February, our content's too spread out and we're not completed and we're always playing catch up to the units and their sessions. So is everybody able to open the document that I sent? Okay, so with all of that like muddiness, I'll just essentially lay out what we did. The other thing that we had to do was I had to go through this with the online person to make sure that they could do these dates because they scheduled them so far in advance. So that was also a little bit trickier than I thought. I thought that kind of once we chose what we wanted, I'll share it with you again, Mary. I think people are on it here. Let me try. So essentially, I'll go through it and then give you guys a few minutes for questions. And then, like I said, I recorded this. I'll send an email with an update. We're going to offer it to all K2 licensed teachers. We're also offering it to everybody that's K2 specialists. So like Wendy Kenyon and Ruth and Mary, Sped. So the people that is applicable to K2. What the district's going to do is we're offering $2,500 upon completion of the training. So, but I want people to understand, the biggest thing I want people to know is I want to be transparent with the amount of work that this is going to be and the time commitment. Because if you start and then drop out in 2 months, 1, the district loses $1,000, and 2, you don't get compensated for any of that time. So for the $2,500 stipend, it's a completion of the online work, completion of the required readings, because essentially what you'll get is you'll get a seat to LETRS, and it's like taking a college course to some degree. You'll have reading, then you'll have just work online that goes with the reading because you get a manual. Then what they do is they give you these recommended classroom components. Well, take this activity and plug it in, or use this strategy and plug it in. I'm going to share this document again in the chat since some people are coming in now. Then the biggest thing, the biggest time commitment and things that people have to know that they're agreeing to, if you don't do all of your reading and need to get caught up, that's on you. If you don't do all of your online work and don't get caught up, that's on you. It's the things that are the attendance piece to the virtual sessions, 4:30 to 7:30. And then what it is it's days that are like not necessarily back to back, but consistent. So it's like on, and then you have to be off for 8 weeks. So that's where it got confusing. Is I thought that we were doing one commitment per month, and that's why if you see the dates, it's 4-9 and 4-16. And it's because essentially that's the unit 1 work that you're doing within that week or 2-week span. And then you take 8 weeks off so that you can complete unit 2. And then we have 2 days that you work on unit 2 virtual. Then you take 8 weeks off so that you guys can do the work for unit 3, unit 4. And there's a couple different things that come into play, like June and August. You won't be able to practice your classroom components then. That's the reality. And I asked them, I was like, well, on the scale of timing and mapping it out to your best practice, they're losing classroom time. You could take a break during the whole summer, but they also don't recommend that. So part of it's wonky because of where we're starting in the school year. And maybe that's something that we can consider too, is like, if the bulk of this team says, nope, this is a no-go for me now, we could essentially say, okay, well, maybe we'll try again in September. That doesn't necessarily change how the virtual trainings break out. They would still recommend them a week apart, 2 times in a row, every 8 weeks. I see Mary thinking, look at her. What is happening here?
Okay. So I think you said the virtual training those 2 should happen at the end of a unit.
Right.
But then in this, you said, we have your virtual trainings, then you complete the work of that unit. Well, how could it be at the end if you're completing the work? Is that the classroom portion?
Because like right now, if we commit and we keep moving, you would have from now until 4-9 to finish unit 1. All of the reading, the online stuff, and then so we'd have the virtual 4-9 and 4-16. Then you'd have all the way until June to finish the unit 2 work.
I see.
Yeah, I know. I was kind of, and actually, in all reality, we would also have like some pre-meetings before, like they would walk you through your manuals and things like that. Not 3-hour commitments, but like check-in meetings.
So I see these are all on Tuesdays.
Mhm.
Everyone is on a Tuesday. I know that's like the worst night of the week for me because I have 2 different meetings on that.
Mhm.
So, and in the fall, you don't know when these meetings are going to be till you get there. So what happens? Is there a
Well,
way to
oh, I
not
see.
do the virtual and do it another time?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So that's another big thing that we were just kind of trying to figure out, to make up a virtual session as a person, like let's say Mary, you miss one. If you miss one, we're kind of just like, yep, life happens if it's an appropriate thing. Like Michelle's in Mexico, that's not super appropriate, but maybe we work through it. But if you miss a second one and have to make it up, it's $900. Each makeup session is $1,000. What we're trying to work out with them is this like package that we can add that breaks it down to like $900 per person per session. Cause you're essentially getting an entire coach to you to make that session up. The other big piece is that they walked me through is that, let's say we start this and you're in it, you're in it, you're in it, and then all of a sudden some major life thing happens. I'm moving to Utah and I can't finish. If you don't finish the course, then the materials like the teacher manuals need to stay in the district because that's half of the cost of what we're paying per teacher. If you finish the course, then essentially those kind of like become your tool for teaching. Um, and then the other piece is that I don't know if it'll be Billy and the new admin at Vanita or if it'll be myself primarily. The administrators have to work with the LETRS coach to track everybody's progress. Like LETRS wants people to be successful. And so they have their own kind of like rules around, yeah, if this teacher is not completing what they need to complete online, that is your job to talk to them. So I don't know what that schedule looks like, but I know that there's at least 3 check-ins that happen over the course of the, let me see if I can find it. I might have printed it. Anyway, you guys don't need to worry about that piece, but just know that there isn't like an online monitoring piece for completion. I guess the biggest thing that I want to hear from people, and you don't have to answer in front of the group or anything. I can send an email and I'll send a link or to a form, is does this change how people feel? Knowing that it's now, instead of these sessions once a month for 3 hours, it's essentially 2 times in a month, every other month, if that makes sense. Every couple months, you have 2 sessions. So you get a longer break in between, but there are 2 weeks in a row that you're essentially working that extra 3 hours. And the idea is that you would be done with the unit that you're going over. So you'd be done with unit 1 materials and coverage by 4-9, or at least 90% done, because you have until that 416. That's like the second part of that. Then you'd be done with unit 2 by 6-11. You'd be done with unit 3 by 8-13. You'd be done with unit 4 by 10-8. That kind of breaks down that, like how much time. And really they're thinking, the way they walked me through that is that, could you essentially expedite it? Absolutely. But where they see teachers and school districts be the most successful is when you give 1 week per session. So then essentially you can only do your virtual trainings every 8 weeks, but you don't want your virtual trainings too far apart because 2 trainings go with 1 unit, if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain it more clearly. Are there questions? One thing that we could do, and maybe I can put this in the form, is that out of those dates, when I had to say this date, this time, I could say Thursdays or Wednesdays. My thinking with the Tuesdays was that Wednesday's an early release. So as a classroom teacher, I'm on a PD until 7:30 at night. Then I know all I have to get through is early release day Wednesday, and it's kind of a wonky day anyway. Or we could say, yep, we had a wonky day on Wednesday. I'm just gonna keep the PD going. That's what I've been doing for the last 3 hours. 4:30, so I mean, I'm not married to any day. Then really it's what you guys want. It's just something that once you lock them in, I don't think there's a lot of flexibility because they're assigning their coaches to your district. Can we be at home? Oh, you can be at home for all of them. Thank you. That's a great question. You can be at home or at school. That's really up to you. And I think that was kind of the idea of the 4:30, which is also nice about a Wednesday, is that you'd have a little bit of time, like if you needed to skedaddle out early, you've already had a few hours. Yeah, that's entirely up to you. I would want to be at home in my sweats or super focused here in my office. I don't
But
know. Go ahead.
my only 2 cents, and this is also flexible, is 2 of those dates are PTA meetings, which is challenging for someone in my position, but I could make it work no matter what.
Yeah, well, and like I said, Mary says she'd like another day. I mean, do people have a preference over Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? If you want to just drop that in the chat, or don't care, or yeah, it was kind of wonky. The other thing I tried to do is I want to be realistic about our start time. And so like, even if everybody's ready, essentially what I need by the end of this week is a number. Like, yes, I'm 100% in, or yeah, I'm going to not do it, because then I've got to get an updated quote. Then I've got to start with the integration. Then I've got to, it's all of these things. I will drop the dates and times in the chat. The other piece is I wanted to be mindful of like spring break. It's going to be February right now. So I want to give us enough time that, yep, you're going to get your manuals, you're going to get your online seat, but you're also didn't know this was coming at you. And so I don't necessarily want to take somebody's spring break days. Not that we could start differently, but then it would be like the 2 weeks in March, and you would have only had a couple weeks to get through unit 1, and that's messy. So I think April is really, really the earliest. One thing I could do, I see, okay, somebody says I would rather do Wednesdays, other days usually I have sport. Yeah, that was the other thing I was thinking of, Ashley, too, is like, where does sports fall in? Where do practices fall in? What kinds of things? And I know there's multiple people that have that same thing. I can 100% try to communicate with them tomorrow and just adjust all of these to Wednesdays and see. It looks like there's not a lot of preference. Except now Tuesday, Thursday would work. So everybody, there will be something for everybody. Other just like general logistics questions, concerns about commitment, concerns about makeup. From what I understand, my next steps are I need to confirm my number and our dates and times. And then I have to get an updated quote from them, and then start with all of the integration piece of getting you guys seats, assigning you seats, and getting the manuals in your hands so that you can actually start reading, setting up there would be some sort of a Zoom integration meeting so that people could walk you through the LETRS platform of where you access your stuff. From what I understand, it's not hard, but I've never worked with somebody that's so private with their materials either. Like they won't show me a platform. They're very locked down. Did I hear you say that we have the option? I don't know, Elizabeth. I think what we're hoping is that we can get a cycle through, and if it's really successful, saying, yep, this is worth our time, energy, and money, that we would potentially run another round. Because that was one of the things with these dollars, is that this is a totally appropriate cost for them. And they'll roll over into next year, but it's really not a long-term, we can't sustain it long-term. This is really going to be specific to this group of folks this kind of year, or potentially next year. Okay. Well, one thing, I guess this is when you open it up to opinion there, it looks like, it's just everything's going to be hard for anybody. I guess what I could do is send out a quick poll of some kind, and you guys rank 1, 2, or 3. And then I just take the majority of which one. Could we move June up? I don't know. I guess what we could consider doing is like June 18th, moving to the June 4th instead. Essentially what they'll say, okay, is, anything is possible to ask. Where they were really trying to help me understand is that it's important to provide 6 or 8 weeks in between the virtual sessions. So 8 weeks between the 4-16 and then the next one. Say again, the work and the reading per week again. So essentially what they think is that it's going to be at the low end, 45 minutes per week independently. I am assuming is what this person's asking. 45 minutes would be your low end. I'm a very fast reader, and I'm digitally inclined on my computer. I'm going to buzz through this work. I'm going to cover it. And then fitting in my classroom practice would be outside of that. So like when you fit in your independent work, online reading, and then your classroom practice, anywhere between 1 hour and 2 hours. I think if I'm a slower reader, I want to read the material again, but that weekly pacing is up to you. From what I understand, I'm not going to be emailing you and say, "Hey, Ashley, you didn't do your lesson this week. Get to it." That's really your professional judgment of how you want to do it. You could try to cram a couple of sessions into a Saturday and then practice in your classes as you see fit. Can we get info on what the other meeting days, times, lengths? Yeah, let me see if I can find it really quick. Sorry, it's called, so this is kind of new. Great seeing you here. Success partnerships for letters. That's what it's called, a success partnership is what we're going to have with them. They're going to walk us through it. So essentially it is, I think we are, sorry. Bronze would be sufficient for us. We don't need gold or platinum. We need bronze. It would be one launch session. Oh, and that says for leaders. So that could just probably be Billy and I, and then one participant session. Online kickoff is what they call it. And I don't know, but I can find out how long that is. She did not make it sound like it's definitely not more than an hour. Like, I think it's welcome to letters. I might even be able to get that recorded for folks to watch as they need. But I can find out. Other questions? So I think what I'll do next is I'll do a couple different things. One, I'll create some sort of a form that has, yes, I'm 100% in. I think that was kind of the other big thing that they really wanted districts to be transparent with is just if you're on the fence or think it's too much or can't handle it, don't do it. If you hear Kai, or the gal that I'm working with, she's like, I can't believe you guys are paying your teachers. This is amazing. I hope they all do it. Like, she's kind of that other flip end. She's like, everybody should take advantage of this wonderful opportunity. The LETRS gal was like, the people that it works best for are the ones that really want this learning experience. And if they're too stressed out, they're too stressed out. So that's where I don't want anybody to feel like you're being super pressured into it. And then, because essentially it'll cost the district money if you quit or don't feel successful. Yes, you can get credits. I confirmed that 10 times over. The district won't pay for it, but they did say that, yep, because that was one thing that I wanted to clarify because I felt like that was confusing. They said it's separate, but yes, you can. Other questions? Okay. I'm supposed to, let me look at my calendar really quick just so that I can be honest about when I'm meeting with them. I have to confirm with them by Thursday, February 1st. I'm on a Zoom with them at 2. So for me, I'll work on getting this some sort of a form or doodle poll or something to everybody that's invited to participate. And I would ask that you guys get back to me no later than Wednesday afternoon. And I'll send a reminder if you don't get it to me. And I'll do that before I leave today. And it'll say day preference, which I think, and I'll just say 1, 2, or 3. So rate them. I'll go with the number 1, let you guys know. And then even with that, I need to reach out to this person and make sure that all of those dates are available. What she did was essentially April were the only ones that had red level, like, oh, we can't fit in another district or have another person. Everything else was pretty open. So there's some flexibility. And then that's pretty much it. We'll go from there and I'll find out. That's when I get all the details. After that, I've got to do the PO. I've got to get all of that stuff. And then I'll slowly start getting people's login information. All that nonsense. Yeah. It was a little bit more of an undertaking than I thought it was going to be, throwing this letters thing together, but I do think it would be great. I am very excited about it, and I think it's going to be great. Okay.
Michelle,
Yeah.
what do we end up with after we're done? This manual, anything else? Do they provide anything else? Okay.
No, not that I'm aware of, but the manual will stay in the district or in house. And that was the biggest thing, is that, she's like, it's easier for us to, especially in an emergency case, try to give you a discount on an additional seat. We're still going to have to buy it. We don't get to replace it, but they will not replace manuals, which are $600.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'll end this. I'll save the recording however I do to YouTube and all of that, and I'll send out an email wrapping it up with some sort of a Google form. Okay, good job. Go team. If you know somebody that wasn't here and they're anxiously awaiting, give them an update. Okay, thank you.